There are so many heroes in the MCU that some of them have never even met on screen. But don't worry, we've got the next best thing, because many of these stars actually worked together before donning their Marvel costumes. Few actors have become so inextricably tied to a role as Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, first exploding onto the scene in 2008's Iron Man, which single-handedly kicked off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Downey Jr. brought a captivating charm and arrogance to the role that made him a fan favorite.
I am Iron Man.
By 2015, the MCU was on a nearly non-stop streak of films that proved to be hits with audiences and critics alike, and began to take more risks with less well-known characters. One of those characters was Ant-Man, played by the always lovable Paul Rudd. Joining in on the fun was Michael Douglas as Dr. Henry Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man who brought Rudd Scott Lang under his wing to take over the mantle. Downey Jr. and Douglas both previously starred in 2000's Wonder Boys, which follows Douglas as an English professor and novelist who must contend with his wife leaving him, the struggle of writing his next novel, and Downey Jr.'s nagging editor. As a bonus, the film also starred Tobey Maguire, who would go on to make a pit stop in the MCU in 2021's Spider-Man No Way Home. Some fans initially felt Chris Evans was a surprising choice to play the Star-Spangled Avenger, but he proved to be perfect for the wholesome, if old-fashioned, Steve Rogers. His first outing was in 2011's Captain America: The First Avenger, and he went on to play the character in several more films, culminating in 2019's Avengers: Endgame. Meanwhile, Brie Larson joined the MCU in 2019's Captain Marvel, and has the distinction of starring in Marvel Studios' first film led by a woman. Larson followed up her first solo film by showing up in Avengers: Endgame later that year, where she gave the Avengers a helping hand against Thanos' army. But before Evans and Larson joined Earth's mightiest heroes, they were both in another comic book movie, 2010's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which told the story of Scott, a young man who must defeat his new girlfriend Ramona's 7 exes before he can truly win her heart. Larson played Scott's ex-girlfriend, pop star MV Adams, while Evans played one of Ramona Flowers' exes, Hollywood actor and skateboarder Lucas Lee.
You are a pretty good actor.
I'm going for the Oscar this year.
As a bonus, the film also featured several other superhero actors, including Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who played the Huntress in Birds of Prey, and Brandon Routh, who played Superman in Superman Returns. Bettany has been in the MCU since the very beginning, bringing Tony Stark's trusty butler Edwin Jarvis to life in the form of Jarvis, a sophisticated artificial intelligence assistant. He voiced the AI program in Iron Man 2, The Avengers, and Iron Man 3. It was in Avengers: Age of Ultron that Jarvis is seemingly destroyed by Ultron until he's resurrected in humanoid form as the Vision. Jennifer Connelly joined the MCU in 2017's Spider-Man: Homecoming, voicing the natural language user interface, dubbed Karen in Peter Parker's second Spider-Man suit, which was created by Tony Stark. This is actually something of an inside joke. In real life, Connelly is married to Bettany, which means that this couple has voiced 2 different AI programs in the MCU. Connelly was also Betty Banner in the 2003 pre-MCU Hulk movie. But before their voices appeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Bettany and Connelly both appeared in the highly acclaimed 2001 film A Beautiful Mind, alongside Russell Crowe. Crowe played mathematician John Nash, while Connelly played his wife Alicia, and Bettany played his friend Charles Herman. Crowe later joined the MCU himself as Zeus in 2022's Thor: Love and Thunder.
So cheer, baby cake.
Josh Brolin is no stranger to comic book movies, having played the lead role in 2010's Jonah Hex and Cable in 2018's Deadpool 2. But he's perhaps most known to fans for his portrayal of Thanos across multiple MCU films, where he actually battled some very familiar faces. Elizabeth Olsen is beloved by fans for her portrayal of Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, who went toe-to-toe with Thanos in Avengers: Endgame, and Klementieff, who joined the MCU in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as Mantis, also battled Thanos in Avengers: Infinity War. All 3 of these actors had already appeared together in a film before even joining the MCU. That movie was 2013's Old Boy, the Spike Lee-directed remake of Park Chan-wook's 2003 film. Brolin played Joe, a man on a violent mission to uncover why he was kidnapped and held captive for 20 years. Olsen played Marie Sebastian, a woman who aids Joe on his quest, and Klementieff made her American film debut as a bodyguard for the primary villain, Adrian Doyle Price. As a bonus, Samuel L. Jackson, the MCU's Nick Fury, also appears in the film, although he was already well into his career in the MCU by the time he appeared in Oldboy. Chris Hemsworth will always be one of the hunkier MCU heroes, bringing Thor to life in the eponymous 2011 film, along with its sequels and the Avengers epics. Zoe Saldana is terrific as the deadliest woman in the whole galaxy, Gamora in the Guardians of the Galaxy series, as well as Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And Karl Urban made quite the splash as Scourge in Thor Ragnarok. However, before turning up in some of the most popular and lucrative films of all time, these three actors all appeared together in the 2009 J.J. Abrams directed Star Trek reboot. Hemsworth had a small yet pivotal role as George Kirk, James Kirk's father, who died while battling the Romulans. Saldana played Uhura, the communications officer of the USS Enterprise, and Urban played Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, the starship's chief medical officer. Star Trek has another Marvel connection in Eric Bana. Bana played the time-traveling Romulan commander Nero, had previously portrayed everyone's favorite green scientist Bruce Banner in the 2003 Ang Lee film Hulk, before Marvel Studios took over the property. Somehow managing to be arrogant yet charming, brash yet vulnerable, Chris Pratt took one of the most obscure characters in Marvel Comics lore and turned Star-Lord into one of the most lovable figures in the MCU. Over the course of 5 movies, a Disney Plus special, and a Disneyland ride, fans have delighted in Pratt's turn as a laid-back space pirate. Frank Grillo, on the other hand, plays a character that's universally loathed rather than loved. He made his MCU debut in Captain America: The Winter Soldier as Brock Rumlow, a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who is actually working for Hydra. He returned in Captain America: Civil War in his Crossbones persona, and while his character was killed in that film, he made a brief appearance in Avengers Endgame during one of the film's time travel sequences. Though their characters never met in the MCU, Pratt and Grillo worked together in the 2012 Oscar-nominated Zero Dark 30. Directed by Catherine Bigelow, the film chronicled the years-long hunt for terrorist leader Osama bin Laden, and they were joined in the film by Mike Colter, who played Luke Cage in Marvel's Netflix series of the same name. Doctor Strange blew audiences away in 2016 for its stunning psychedelic visuals that perfectly captured the weirdness of the trippy comic book source material. However, just as impressive was Benedict Cumberbatch's turn as the arrogant neurosurgeon who, after turning to magic out of desperation to heal his broken hands, becomes an arrogant master of the mystic arts and a centerpiece of the MCU. Martin Freeman made his debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe playing counter-terrorist agent Everett Ross, Captain America: Civil War. He tries to bring in Bucky Barnes for a fatal bomb attack before realizing the real culprit is Helmut Zemo. Freeman played a larger role in 2018's Black Panther and Black Panther 2 as an ally of Wakanda. Before joining the MCU though, Cumberbatch and Freeman famously portrayed Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson in the beloved BBC series Sherlock. While Cumberbatch's Strange and Freeman's Ross have yet to meet one another in the MCU, we're still hoping for them to share a screen or two together at some point, perhaps with Strange lecturing Ross on his lack of deductive reasoning. When Samuel L. Jackson walked onto the screen as Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man, Hollywood changed forever, as shared universes have become the norm thanks to the success of the MCU. And right from the start, Jackson has served as one of the main through lines connecting the stories of the various heroes, leading up to 2012's The Avengers and beyond. Natalie Portman's first outing in the MCU was in the first Thor as Jane Foster, serving as the love interest for the God of Thunder in both that film and its sequel, Thor: The Dark World. For a while, it seemed that Portman would never return to the MCU, as it was speculated that her frustration with Marvel Studios firing original Dark World director Patty Jenkins was the reason why. However, she returned in Thor: Love and Thunder, where she became a superhero in her own right.
And its pieces started glowing and swirling, and then
Crazy.
Thor.
Portman and Jackson are no strangers to massive pop culture franchises though. Both of them starred in the Star Wars prequel trilogy, Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. Jackson played Mace Windu, a Jedi Master and high-ranking member of the Jedi Council, while Portman played Padme Amidala, the Queen of Naboo and wife of Anakin Skywalker. Mark Ruffalo took over acting duties as Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, after Edward Norton played the character in 2008's The Incredible Hulk. Since then, Ruffalo has played Banner in numerous MCU film and television projects, ranging from The Avengers to What If. Andy Serkis, meanwhile, made quite the impression in Avengers Age of Ultron as the villainous Ulysses Klaue, a South African black market arms dealer specializing in stealing and selling vibranium from Wakanda. After he gets his left arm cut off by Ultron, Serkis' Klaue re-emerged in Black Panther with a new prosthetic robotic arm that doubles as a sonic weapon, and Serkis also lent his voice talents to an episode of the Disney Plus series, What If? And Judy Greer made her MCU debut in Ant-Man, where she played Maggie, the ex-wife of Scott Lang and the mother of Cassie Lang. She was also seen in that role in the 2018 sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So what else do these three actors have in common? Well, along with fellow MCU star Brie Larson, they all appeared together in the 2004 romantic fantasy comedy 13 Going on 30. Ruffalo played main love interest Matt Flamhaff, Greer played Lucy Tom Wyman, Larson played one of the 6 chicks, and Serkis played Richard Neeland, the editor-in-chief of Poise magazine. As a bonus, the film star Jennifer Garner also played the anti-hero Elektra. Her version of the character was sort of brought into the MCU in Deadpool and Wolverine. Rachel McAdams first appeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2016's Doctor Strange as Christine Palmer, an emergency surgeon and former lover of Stephen Strange. Director and co-writer Scott Derrickson originally intended for her to be Strange's love interest, but felt that it was too much of a cliché and changed them into friends who were previously in a romantic relationship. She has reprised her role since in both film and on Disney+. Jude Law portrayed Young Rogg, the commander of the Kree Star Force and Carol Danvers' mentor, who trains her in the use of her new powers in Captain Marvel. Rogg has a complicated relationship with Danvers, both saving her life and manipulating her memories to make her into his ultimate weapon. But before joining the MCU, McAdams and Law appeared together in 2009's Sherlock Holmes and his 2011 sequel, Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. McAdams portrayed Irene Adler, an American femme fatale and one of the few people to outwit the impressive mind of Holmes, while Law played Holmes' loyal partner, Dr. John Watson. As a bonus, both Sherlock Holmes films starred Robert Downey Jr. as a titular detective, although he was already entrenched in the MCU as Iron Man by this point. Paul Rudd made a perfect Ant-Man in his first solo outing in 2015, delivering plenty of comedy and heart to the MCU in equal measure as reformed thief Scott Lang. He later returned for 2 sequels and played a big role in both Captain America: Civil War and Avengers: Endgame, and he was excited to do it.
I'm shaking your hand too long. Wow, this is awesome.
Captain America, I know you too. You're great.
And while Bobby Cannavale had only a small role to play in Ant-Man as Scott's ex-wife's new husband, Jim Paxton, he nevertheless brought some dramatic heft to the 2 Ant-Man films. But it wasn't the first time he and Rudd had worked together. They both appeared in the 2007 anthology film The 10, before joining the ever-expanding Marvel Cinematic Universe. In fact, the 2 actors are such good friends in real life that Rudd personally asked Cannavale to be in Ant-Man. Jeremy Renner made his MCU debut in Thor as the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. After joining the Avengers, Hawkeye would go on to appear in Captain America: Civil War, as well as Avengers: Age of Ultron and Avengers: Endgame. He even trains a protege, Kate Bishop, in the Hawkeye Disney Plus series. Anthony Mackie first brought Captain America's trusty partner Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon, to life in Captain America: The Winter Soldier and Captain America: Civil War. He became an important member of the Avengers before ultimately taking on the mantle of Captain America in the Disney Plus series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which he carried on into the films. But before fighting alongside each other in the Avengers, Renner and Mackie appeared together in the Oscar-winning 2008 film The Hurt Locker. Renner played Sergeant First Class William James, a role that garnered him an Academy Award nomination, while Mackie played Sergeant J.T. Sanborn in the powerful Iraq war drama. Peter Dinklage had a small but pivotal role in Avengers: Infinity War as the King of the Dwarves. In the film, Thor has him craft a new weapon to take on Thanos, with a little help from Groot and Rocket Raccoon. Richard Madden was seen in 2020's Eternals as Icarus, a member of the important race with superhuman strength, the ability to project cosmic energy beams from his eyes, and the power of flight. Also joining Madden in Eternals is Kit Harington, who portrayed Dane Whitman, a history professor who works at the Natural History Museum in London and is in a romantic relationship with Cersei. While Dane doesn't officially become the Black Knight character from the comics in Eternals, he does hint that there's more to his family lineage and, in a post-credit scene, opens a case that contains the Ebony Blade. Before joining the MCU though, Dinklage, Madden, and Harington famously appeared together in another wildly popular franchise, the hit HBO show Game of Thrones, as Tyrion Lannister, Robb Stark, and Jon Snow, respectively. But if you're anything like Tyrion, you probably knew that already.
I drink and I know things.
There have been 3 big-screen versions of Peter Parker's beloved Aunt May, but the MCU's take on the character was brought to life by Marissa Tomei, the aunt of Peter Parker and widow of Ben Parker. This take on Aunt May is different from previous depictions, as she finds out pretty early on that her seemingly average nephew is in fact Spider-Man. Portrayed as younger and more hip, Tomei's character even has a brief relationship with Happy Hogan, and is the one who gives Parker the immortal wisdom.
And with great power, there must also come great responsibility.
Meanwhile, in another corner of the MCU, Tilda Swinton appeared in Doctor Strange as the Ancient One, a legendary sorcerer who brings Stephen Strange under wing to learn the mystic arts. Unfortunately, when their clan of sorcerers is betrayed from within, the Ancient One dies. But magic lives forever, so in spite of this untimely demise, Swinton has returned to play the character in both Avengers Endgame as well as an episode of What If. Though they never interacted on screen, Tomei, Swinton, and fellow MCU actress Brie Larson all appeared together in the 2015 Amy Schumer comedy Trainwreck. Tomei had a cameo as a dog owner in a movie within the movie. Swinton played Diana, and Larson played Kim Townsend. For MCU fans waiting for an all-female Avengers film, Trainwreck isn't a half-bad place to start. While Avengers Age of Ultron didn't quite live up to its predecessor in terms of reviews and box office gross, it did give us a wonderful voice performance from James Spader, who played the megalomaniacal title robot. Born from a previously abandoned global defense program created by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, Ultron believes that he must destroy humanity in order to establish peace on Earth. Ultron could have easily wandered into the typical mad robot cliches seen in other films like those of the Terminator series, but Spader brought an irony and pain to the role not usually seen in other AI villains. Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark is largely responsible for the creation of Ultron, so of course the two are enemies. But ironically, Downey Jr. and Spader are actually good friends in real life, and previously starred together in two films, 1985's Tough Turf and 1987's Less Than Zero. But the connections don't end there. In Tough Turf, there's a scene where Spader's character gets beaten up and mugged in an alley, and is then helped by Downey Jr.'s character, all in front of a brick wall with graffiti that spells out The New Avengers. That would eventually be used as a name for a Marvel comic book series, and stands as a weird coincidence prefiguring decades of fan-favorite films to come.